Have you ever wondered if something you do every day, something that seems completely harmless, could actually be silently increasing your risk of cancer? When Susan came to my office last year, she was shocked to learn that a habit she'd maintained for over 4 decades might have contributed to the stage 2 colon cancer she was now facing. At 73, she thought she was doing everything right, eating relatively well, getting some exercise, keeping up with most of her screenings. But there was this one thing, this simple daily habit that no one had ever warned her about. I still remember the look on her face when I explained the connection. First disbelief, then anger that no one had told her sooner. The truth is that many medical professionals simply don't have time to discuss these preventative measures in detail during your standard 15-minute appointment. But today, I'm going to share with you the exact same information I shared with Susan, information that could potentially save your life or the life of someone you love. Because once you know about this risk factor, you can make simple changes starting today that could dramatically reduce your cancer risk. So please, stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share might be one of the most important health warnings you'll hear this year. Hey there, I'm truly grateful you've joined me today for this important conversation. Before we dive deeper, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Just drop your city or state in the comments below. And if you have any questions as we go along, feel free to ask them. This is a topic that affects millions of Americans over 65, and getting accurate information out there is my mission. If you find this information valuable, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss these potentially life-saving updates. The habit I'm talking about today is something that approximately 68% of Americans over the age of 65 engage in regularly, often, without realizing the risk they're taking. It's something that has been normalized in our society, something that many people consider a comfort or even a necessity. What's particularly concerning is how this risk increases significantly after age 65, when our body's natural repair mechanisms begin to slow down. Before I reveal what this habit is, I want to emphasize that knowledge is power, and with this knowledge, you can make better choices starting today. The good news is that eliminating or modifying this habit can reduce your cancer risk substantially, even if you've been doing it for decades. In fact, studies show that making this change can reduce certain cancer risks by up to 30% within just 2 years. That's an incredible return on investment for your health, wouldn't you agree? I want to pause for a moment here and ask you something important. Has cancer touched your life or the life of someone you love? What has been the most challenging aspect of that journey? You know, so many people face this battle feeling isolated, as if no one truly understands the depth of what they're experiencing. I want you to know that this space is a safe one where your experiences are valued and can actually help others who might be walking a similar path. If you'd like to share, you can simply copy. My experience with cancer has been, and complete it with your thoughts. Even just a few words can make a difference. Your comments not only help me create content that addresses your real concerns, but they might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to feel less alone. Sometimes, just knowing that others are facing similar challenges brings immense comfort. Your voice matters, your experience matters, and together, we're building a stronger community of support and understanding. Now let me reveal the habit I've been referring to: prolonged sedentary behavior, particularly sitting for extended periods without movement breaks. This might sound surprisingly simple, but the science behind it is compelling and concerning, especially for those over 65. When we remain seated for hours at a time, whether watching TV, reading, driving, or working at a computer, our bodies experience several harmful physiological changes that can create the perfect environment for cancer development. First, let's look at what happens in your body during prolonged sitting. Blood circulation slows dramatically, reducing the flow of oxygen and nutrients to your tissues, while allowing inflammatory compounds to build up. Studies from the American Cancer Society have found that people who sit for more than 6 hours daily have a 19% higher death rate than those who sit for 3 hours or less. For adults over 65, this percentage jumps to nearly 40%. Why? because our circulation naturally becomes less efficient as we age, and the damage from sedentary behavior compounds more quickly. Additionally, prolonged sitting affects your metabolism in ways that create an internal environment favorable to cancer growth. When you sit for extended periods, your muscles, particularly the large muscles in your legs, aren't contracting. These muscles are designed to be your body's primary glucose processors. When they remain inactive, glucose stays in your bloodstream longer, triggering your pancreas to produce more insulin. Over time, this can lead to insulin resistance and chronically elevated insulin levels. Here's where the cancer connection becomes clear. Insulin is a growth factor that can stimulate cancer cell proliferation. A landmark study published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute found that high insulin levels increase the risk of colon cancer by 50% and breast cancer by 37% in people over 60. Have you ever thought about how something as simple as how long you sit could have such profound effects on your cancer risk? The third mechanism involves chronic inflammation, which increases dramatically with sedentary behavior. When you sit for hours, your body's inflammatory response increases, creating oxidative stress that can damage DNA and set the stage for cancer development. A comprehensive review in the Annals of Internal Medicine analyzed 47 studies and concluded that prolonged sitting increases inflammation markers like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, which are strongly associated with cancer development. For seniors whose immune systems are already experiencing age-related changes, this inflammation poses an even greater risk. One participant in our clinic's lifestyle modification program, Robert, age 69, had inflammation markers that decreased by 32% after just 3 months of implementing regular movement breaks into his daily routine. That's a remarkable improvement from such a simple change, isn't it? Now let's examine the specific cancer risks associated with prolonged sitting for people over 65. Colorectal cancer shows the strongest correlation, with studies indicating a 46% increased risk for those sitting more than 6 hours daily compared to those sitting less than 3 hours. This is particularly concerning because colorectal cancer is already the third most commonly diagnosed cancer in adults over 65. The mechanism is quite direct. Reduced movement slows colon motility, extending the time that potential carcinogens in waste remain in contact with the colon lining. Additionally, the reduced muscle contractions during sitting diminish the abdominal pressure that helps maintain healthy colon function. Margaret, a 72-year-old patient of mine, had been experiencing chronic constipation for years while spending most of her day sitting and watching television. After implementing a routine of standing and moving for 5 minutes every hour, her colon function improved dramatically, reducing one of her primary risk factors. Breast cancer risk also increases significantly with sedentary behavior, especially in postmenopausal women. A study in cancer epidemiology found that women over 65 who sat for more than 6 hours daily had a 30% higher risk of breast cancer compared to those who sat less than 3 hours daily. This is linked to the hormonal changes that occur with prolonged sitting, specifically higher insulin levels and increased estrogen production in fatty tissue, both of which can stimulate breast cancer cell growth. For postmenopausal women who already have changing hormonal profiles, this additional disruption can be particularly dangerous. What's remarkable is how quickly risk factors can improve when sitting time is reduced. In a 2023 study from the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, women who reduced their sitting time by just 2 hours per day showed measurable improvements in estrogen and insulin levels within 3 weeks. Lung cancer, surprisingly, also shows links to sedentary behavior, independent of smoking status. When you sit for extended periods, your breathing becomes shallower and less oxygen circulates throughout your body. This reduced oxygenation creates an environment where cancer cells can thrive. For seniors whose lung capacity naturally decreases with age, this effect is magnified. A study from the International Journal of Epidemiology found that adults over 65 who were sedentary had a 27% higher risk of lung cancer compared to active adults, even when controlling for smoking history. This is particularly notable because many people assume lung cancer is exclusively linked to smoking, but other risk factors like sedentary behavior can play a significant role, especially in older adults. Have you noticed how much deeper you breathe when you're up and moving compared to when you're sitting for hours? Prostate cancer in men over 65 has also been linked to prolonged sitting. Research published in the British Journal of Cancer showed that men who spent more than 7 hours daily sitting had a 30% higher risk of prostate cancer compared to those sitting less than 5 hours. The mechanisms include reduced circulation to the prostate gland and hormonal changes that occur during extended periods of inactivity. Frank, a 78-year-old retired accountant, was diagnosed with early-stage prostate cancer after decades of working at a desk. As part of his recovery plan, he implemented a strict routine of standing and walking for at least 10 minutes every hour during his waking day. His follow-up PSA tests showed improvement, and his oncologist attributed part of this positive response to his increased activity levels. Isn't it remarkable how our bodies respond when we give them what they naturally need? Pancreatic cancer, one of the most aggressive and difficult to treat cancers, also shows concerning correlations with sedentary behavior. A comprehensive analysis in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute found that people who spent more than 6 hours daily sitting had a 35% increased risk of pancreatic cancer. For adults over 65, this increased to nearly 50%. The pancreas is particularly sensitive to the metabolic disruptions caused by prolonged sitting, especially the insulin resistance I mentioned earlier. Since the pancreas is responsible for insulin production, this creates a troubling cycle where sedentary behavior forces the pancreas to work harder, potentially leading to cellular stress and eventual DNA damage that can trigger cancer development. Helen, age 71, had pre-diabetic blood sugar levels and a family history of pancreatic cancer. After incorporating hourly movement breaks and reducing her daily sitting time by half, her fasting insulin levels normalized within 6 months, significantly reducing her cancer risk profile. Now, you might be wondering, does this mean I can never relax in my favorite chair again? Absolutely not. The key finding from research is that it's not just total sitting time that matters, but how that sitting time is broken up. This is actually good news, because it means you don't have to completely change your lifestyle to reduce your cancer risk significantly. The pattern of your sitting matters as much as the total amount. A groundbreaking study in the Journal of Gerontology compared 2 groups of adults over 65 who both sat for 6 hours daily. The first group sat continuously, while the second group broke up their sitting with 5-minute movement breaks every hour. After just 2 weeks, the second group showed significantly lower levels of inflammatory markers and insulin resistance, 2 key factors in cancer development. Isn't it amazing that such a small change could have such meaningful health benefits? The question then becomes, what kind of movement breaks are most effective for reducing cancer risk? The good news is that you don't need intense exercise to see benefits. Simple activities like standing while talking on the phone, walking to the kitchen for a glass of water, doing a few gentle stretches, or even just standing and swaying in place can be effective. The goal is to contract those large muscles in your legs and increase circulation throughout your body. A study from the American Journal of Physiology found that even light-intensity activities, when performed every 30-60 minutes, can reduce the harmful metabolic effects of sitting by up to 60%. For Martha, an 82-year-old participant in our senior wellness program, simply standing up and marching in place for 2 minutes while watching commercial breaks during her favorite TV shows led to measurable improvements in her blood pressure, glucose levels, and overall energy. Let me share with you a simple strategy that has worked for hundreds of my patients over 65, the 28-2 rule. For every 30 minutes, aim to sit for no more than 20 minutes, stand for 8 minutes, and move for 2 minutes. This might sound challenging at first, but most people find they can incorporate this pattern naturally into their day after a short adjustment period. James, a 75-year-old retired teacher, initially thought this schedule would be disruptive to his reading time, which he cherished. However, he found that using a timer and standing to walk around his apartment while thinking about what he'd just read actually enhanced his comprehension and enjoyment of books. After 3 months of following this pattern, his routine checkup showed improvements in nearly all his biomarkers, from cholesterol to inflammation markers. Could you imagine incorporating something similar into your daily routine? Technology can be a valuable ally in reducing your sitting time. Simple tools like smartphone timers, fitness trackers, or even specialized apps can remind you when it's time to move. Many of my patients over 65 have found success with devices that vibrate gently after detecting 30 minutes of inactivity, prompting them to stand and move. Carol, age 68, uses her smartwatch to alert her every hour for a movement break. She reports that not only has this helped her reduce her sitting time, but she feels more energetic and focused throughout the day. For those less comfortable with technology, old-fashioned methods work just as well. Raymond, 84, simply uses the segments of his favorite TV shows as markers, standing and walking around his living room after each scene change. The key is finding a reminder system that works for you and your lifestyle. Environmental modifications can make a significant difference in reducing sedentary time. Consider how your home is arranged. Are there opportunities to incorporate more? Standing and movement. Some of my patients have had success with creating standing stations for activities they typically do sitting down. For instance, placing a countertop or high shelf near your television where you can stand while watching the news, or creating a standing desk area for reading or computer work. Barbara, age 70, elevated her crossword puzzle hobby by moving it to her kitchen counter, where she now stands to solve puzzles rather than sitting in her armchair. After 6 months, she reported less back pain, better digestion, and more stable energy levels throughout the day. Small environmental changes like these can add up to significant reductions in cancer risk over time. Social strategies can also be effective in reducing sitting time. Many seniors find that accountability and companionship make movement breaks more enjoyable and sustainable. Consider finding a standing buddy, someone you call regularly while standing and pacing rather than sitting. Virtual or in-person movement groups can provide both social connection and physical benefits. A senior center in Cleveland established a commercial break club where members watching the same TV shows would text each other during commercial breaks to confirm they were up and moving. After 6 months, participants reported not only health improvements, but stronger social connections and reduced feelings of isolation. The social element often helps make these changes stick as new habits form. Would having an accountability partner help you remember to take regular movement breaks? Another effective approach is linking movement breaks to everyday triggers in your environment. This strategy, known as habit stacking, involves adding a short movement session to something you already do consistently. For example, standing and walking in place while waiting for your coffee to brew, doing gentle stretches after every trip to the bathroom, or taking a walk around your home whenever the phone rings. Daniel, age 77, created a rule that he would walk to a different room and back whenever he finished reading an article or book chapter. Within weeks, this became so automatic that he no longer needed to consciously remember to move more. By linking movement to existing habits, you reduce the mental effort required to make this healthy change, making it much more likely to stick long-term. It's worth addressing some of the common barriers that prevent older adults from reducing their sitting time and how to overcome them. Joint pain and mobility issues are frequently cited concerns. If this applies to you, remember that even small movements can provide benefits. Seated arm exercises, gentle seated marching, or simply changing positions more frequently can all help break up prolonged sitting. Weather constraints are another common challenge. Helen, age 73, created an indoor walking circuit in her home for days when she couldn't go outside due to extreme heat or cold. She simply mapped a path through different rooms, adding small tasks along the way like watering plants or checking the mail, allowing her to accumulate movement even when confined indoors. For those with cognitive concerns who might forget to take movement breaks, visual reminders placed on frequently used items like TV remotes or reading glasses can serve as effective prompts. The timing of your movement breaks may also influence their effectiveness in reducing cancer risk. Emerging research suggests that breaking up sitting time after meals might be particularly beneficial, as this is when your body experiences the highest surge of glucose and insulin, both potential drivers of cancer cell growth. A study from Diabetes Care found that just 15 minutes of light walking after meals reduced post-meal glucose and insulin spikes by nearly 30% in adults over 65. Richard, age 79, adopted a routine of standing and walking for 5 minutes after each meal. After 3 months, his fasting glucose levels had improved significantly, and he reported feeling more energetic in the afternoons, a time when he previously experienced fatigue. Could you imagine incorporating a short standing or walking period after your meals? An important note for those already diagnosed with cancer or undergoing treatment: reducing sitting time can still provide meaningful benefits. Several studies have shown that cancer patients who break up prolonged sitting have better treatment outcomes, fewer side effects, and improved quality of life. Deborah, age 68, was undergoing chemotherapy for breast cancer when her oncologist suggested incorporating regular movement breaks into her day. Despite fatigue being a significant challenge, she found that short, gentle movement sessions actually helped reduce her treatment-related exhaustion rather than worsening it. Her oncologist noted that her recovery between treatments was better than expected, potentially influenced by her reduced sitting time. If you're currently in treatment, always consult with your healthcare provider about appropriate activity levels, but know that even small movement breaks can often provide benefits. There's also a psychological component to sitting that deserves attention, especially for older adults. Research from the Journal of Gerontological Psychology found that prolonged sitting is associated with increased risk of depression and cognitive decline in adults over 65. These mental health challenges can, in turn, affect cancer outcomes through various pathways, including immune function and stress hormone levels. Margaret, age 76, noticed that after implementing regular movement breaks, not only did her physical health markers improve, but she experienced fewer episodes of low mood and anxious thoughts. The mind-body connection is powerful, and reducing sitting time appears to benefit both physical and mental health in ways that collectively reduce cancer risk. Have you noticed connections between your activity levels and your mood or mental clarity? Looking toward the future, what does the research suggest about the long-term benefits of reducing sitting time for cancer prevention? The evidence is compelling. A 2023 longitudinal study followed over 8,000 adults for 12 years and found that those who reduced their sitting time by just 2 hours per day experienced a 22% lower incidence of all cancers combined, with the strongest effects seen in colorectal, breast, and endometrial cancers. For participants over 65, the benefits were even more pronounced, a 31% reduction in cancer incidence. What's particularly encouraging is that these benefits were observed even in people who had spent decades being sedentary before making changes. Thomas, age 83, had been relatively inactive throughout his career as an accountant. After retirement at 70, he gradually incorporated more movement into his daily routine. At his recent checkup, his doctor noted that his cancer risk profile looked more like someone a decade younger. It's truly never too late to start seeing benefits from reducing sitting time. As we draw our conversation to a close today, I want to emphasize that this information isn't meant to cause fear or anxiety about sitting. Rather, it's an empowering reminder that simple changes can have profound effects on your health and cancer risk. The human body, even in its later years, has a remarkable capacity to respond positively to healthier patterns of movement. Every time you stand up from a chair, take a short walk around your home, or simply shift positions, you're giving your body what it evolutionarily needs and reducing your cancer risk in tangible ways. The most encouraging aspect of this research is that it's never too late to start. Even if you've spent decades in a highly sedentary lifestyle, your body will respond positively to changes you make today. Let me leave you with 3 simple action steps you can implement immediately. First, set a timer. For 30-minute intervals during activities where you typically sit for long periods, like watching TV or reading. When the timer goes off, stand and move for at least 2 or 3 minutes. Second, identify one sitting activity each day that you could modify to include more movement, perhaps standing during phone calls or creating a simple standing station for a daily activity. Third, pay attention to how your body feels when you move more frequently. Many people notice improvements in energy, digestion, and mood within just days of reducing their sitting time. These positive reinforcements can help motivate continued change. Thank you so much for staying with me through this important conversation about cancer risk and sitting behavior. If you found this information valuable, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment below sharing one way you plan to reduce your sitting time this week. Your comment might inspire others with creative ideas they hadn't considered, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel and turning on notifications so you never miss these potentially life-saving updates. Remember, knowledge is powerful only when put into action. Each time you stand up today, you're taking a stand against cancer. Until next time, wishing you vibrant health and renewed energy through movement, because every moment you spend moving is an investment in a longer, healthier, cancer-free future.